when I was a kid, I don't know if you were like this, but my aunts and uncles, my dad and my grandpa and everybody, they would go at each other like, alley cats, pack of alley cats, just ripping each other apart. When it came to politics, it was a time of Nixon, and passions were really high at the time of Nixon. And then, the fights would have edges, but not fangs. I never, ever thought my family was falling apart because of some political argument. And they didn't agree on things. They would argue, they'd roll their eyes, they'd, pop each other's balloons. But then, and it was usually my grandmother, somebody would say, dinner's ready. And the whole thing would dissolve into, the sound of clattering plates and the same old stories. And it was over. And then we'd get together again and they'd do it again. And then dinner's ready and it would all be over. It's weird how things have changed now. But I've been thinking about it, and I think politics was not the sacred altar that it is now. Washington was not the center of our personal universe. Family was, community was, how we treated each other was. We had room to be wrong, room to disagree, room to be human. I saw something yesterday. Jimmy Kimmel's wife was on, let's see, We Can Do Hard Things, the podcast. And she was on, and she's now distancing her pro-Trump relatives, family members. And she said, it hurts me so much because of the personal relationship I have now where my husband is out there fighting this man. I personalize everything. When I see these terrible stories every day, I'm immediately mad at certain aunts and uncles and cousins who put him in power. And that's really, really super hard. Wow. She personalizes everything. I mean, that's not politics. That's something well beyond politics. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that is. The personalization. My husband is out there fighting this man. Fighting? Why? Was that his choice? Who elected him to fight? Was he drafted? Did he choose the fight? And yeah, Trump has thrown jabs back, but as a guy who's thrown jabs at Trump, he hits hard. He hits really hard, but he doesn't ever strike first, And I guess it's your job, to throw punches at the president. That was his job, but they weren't good-spirited. They were mean-spirited. And so, of course, the president's going to punch back. I mean, the scale tilts both ways when you're doing that one. And what's weird is she went on to say that this was but he's a very important figure in the world. Yeah, he is. He's the president of the United States. But I don't know if you know this, your husband's not a nobody. He's not taking, you're not punching tickets on the back of a subway. When did host of a national late night show on a network stop being a powerful platform? Well, I'm very angry. I'm very angry. I'm mad at my aunts and uncles and cousins who put him into power. Mad at them? You're really mad at them. Not puzzled, not curious. You're mad. As if the act of voting differently is a personal betrayal. Well, you said you personalize everything. As if a disagreement is an act of violence. I'm mad at you. Why? Because we see the world through a different lens? Is that why you're mad at me? You mad at me because I shop at different grocery stores than Hollywood does? Because I live in a red state instead of a blue zip code? Is that why you're mad at me? Can I ask you, why is it so important, especially to the left, but it is to the right too? Why is it so important to us that everyone sees the world exactly the way we do? I don't understand. I really don't get it. I mean, if I'm mad at somebody and I disagree with somebody, I'm going to now tell you have to be mad at them and you have to disagree, or you're just like them. You're a problem. Or you're going to live in a universe of one. Only you are living in that universe. And by the way, when you're mad at somebody, Molly, I mean, you've been living in California. I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing you vote for Gavin Newsom over and over and over again. And I don't hate you for it. I don't even think you're stupid. I am really confused by you and your neighbors and their reasoning sometimes, but that's your right. That's America. I don't demand that you think like me. I don't grieve, my relatives, I don't hate them because they don't agree with me. We hash it out. We roll our eyes and then pass the potatoes, will you? I mean, I have lots of people in my family that disagree. Lots of them disagree with me. Well, I'm not mad at them for that. Not at all. I learned from them. You say you're aligned with values. Good. Great. Let's talk about values for a second. Here's one value that we all used to share. The value of accepting that other people, even family, even people you love, are allowed to be wrong. They're allowed to fail. They're allowed to see a world through a different prism. This belief that everybody who doesn't agree with you, they're somehow or another misinformed, that they're somehow lesser, that if they don't vote the way you want, they're not voting for your family. That's not democracy. That's the seed of authoritarian thinking, It's the little voice that whispers that the world would be better if people like you just made all the decisions for everybody else. And that voice grows and grows and grows if you feed it, Let me just ask you this. If that's what you think, how does that end? Okay. I have to be mad at them because they don't see it my way. Okay. Does that circle keep growing? Because what do? Do you force them eventually to see it your way? Because if you've tried to convince them and they can't be convinced, your choice really is love them or force them into silence, force them, shame them, shun them, strip their voting rights away from them. I mean, all of these choices, it gets worse and worse from there. You try to convince them, and if they don't see it your way, you shrug your shoulders and say, pass the potatoes. Am I wrong on that? I mean, we're all headed towards Thanksgiving. We're all headed for one of these showdowns. We know it. All right. How are you going to react this year? Because history shows there's only one road those impulses drive towards, and it's not one lined with liberty trees. Let's just say that. You accuse your family of choosing a dictator, but did you notice what Gavin Newsom was doing during COVID? Did you see that one? No, because the ends justified the means. It was totally okay to take religious people, and if we have to throw them in jail, we'll throw them in jail. I mean, people like him, and he was even talking about, maybe we should pick these people up. We deny them medical care if they don't take the jab. Wait, what? When you don't see it on your own side, because I see it on my side. I do. I see it on my side. Stu and I talk about it all the time. We are watching Donald Trump like a hawk. You start messing with the Constitution, we're all over you. I see it on our side. I see how it can happen. I don't want it to happen. I'll stand up. I'll be with you if it starts to happen. But if you can't recognize it on your own side, that blindness is how free nations lose their footing. And when you say that them voting for Trump is them not voting for your husband, again, can I just ask gently, was he running for something? Because I wasn't aware he was on the ballot. I didn't know. I just thought he was a bad talk show host. In my opinion, a bad talk show host. You write for him. You're a producer. I'm sure you're also married to him, so you love him. But if that's the standard, none of us stand a chance. Okay. And by the way, I'm on the air every single day. I have a family that disagrees with me. They're still my family. I love them. They love me. Politics, shouldn't break what God and blood and history has put together, So let's go back to values. Humility is one. Humility. That's the ballast that keeps the nation steady. Yeah, but they were very upset when they were going to be canceled. Yeah. Hey, now you know what it feels like, huh? Now you know exactly what it feels like. I'm not for that. I stood up for your husband. I don't think that he should be canceled. But you guys did make a creative choice. You turned a late night comedy show into a message machine, and that's your right. And had it worked, you would have rightly received the applause. Okay? Had you reinvented the whole thing and now you're like, you know what? Now it's number one and it's breaking all kinds of records because I'm telling people what to think. If it would have worked, you would have gotten the praise for it. When it doesn't work, responsibility comes with the, same door that credit would have walked through. So I'm just saying. And actually, I'm glad you were on that. I didn't know anything about that podcast, and I'm not really interested in listening, but I did read enough to help understand you a little bit more and your husband. And it is just revealing what's happening in tens of millions of homes all over. The sorrow and the strain and the belief that the political is now the personal and the disagreement is an attack and the family is conditional. And it's heartbreaking because that's not who we were. It's not who we were. And if that's who we want to be, then, we're never going to fix this thing. But I think we can fix it. Now, your husband's show, on the other hand, I don't think we can fix that. Stu, do you think we can fix them? I don't think so.
I mean, I think it's theoretically fixable. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I feel like with Kimmel, the sort of conservative shorthand is that he's not funny. And I actually don't even think that's true. I think there was a time he was pretty funny. I just think that he made a choice that you just described to totally change what he's doing into this other thing, which is just try to come up with the same 5 jokes on Donald Trump every night. And I don't think he's funny doing that. But I think, if you go back to his early career, and maybe even early on the Kimmel show, I think some of that stuff was funny. I just think he abandoned it, which, is a choice.
The easiest thing to do is, we did this, Stu, when we were young.
Don't remember
and
that.
we got into this. We got into this to make fun of those people who took themselves so seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was my biggest thing. And, number one rule on this show is make fun of me. Because if I can't take it, then I shouldn't be dishing it out. So make fun of me. That is the number one rule. Hit me as hard as you possibly can. The second is, don't take yourself so seriously. And that one we struggle with. That one is really hard. You get into this position and you're like, well, you know what? I have a responsibility. Really? I mean, I guess you do. I mean, we do when we take it seriously, but we shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. And I think that's the problem. He takes himself so seriously. Dude, you are talking to people who are watching you through their feet. I mean, I'm just saying.
That's true. The glimmering blue light is lighting up their toes as he makes these jokes. That's a good point. That's a good point. It's a good way of looking at it. I do think that's important because obviously if you don't take yourself seriously at all, especially when you're in a role where you're talking about the news and analysis and stuff, you have to do some of that. You have to at least try to get to real answers. But if you overinflate what you're doing and the impact that you're having, you will make choices that make your show suck. That is something that is completely true. We've seen it before. We've seen people that we know that have made those choices. Before. I'm sure we have many times.
We did, and we saw how it tubed the show. When you get to a place where you're like, you know what? I have the answer and everybody else is wrong. You're done. You're done. You just can't. We need to take our job seriously, but not take ourselves so seriously. And I don't think he takes his job seriously because that's not what a TV late night show is. It's not a classroom.
Glenn, in these serious times, you have to change it. You have to. Yeah. In times like this, with a tyrant like this, you must blah, 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 blah. It's like they all go through the same process.